Okay, listen to this. In 1970, a car rolled off the assembly line that was so ridiculously fast, so absurdly overpowered, and so terrifyingly understated that GM quietly tried to keep it under wraps. No spoilers yet, but this machine, the 1970 Chevy Nova SS, was a straight-up missile disguised as a lunchbox on wheels. It wasn't loud on the outside, but inside, it was all, "I will absolutely embarrass your Mustang in front of your girlfriend." This car had secrets, big ones the insurance companies didn't want you to know and GM sure didn't want to advertise. Secrets about power, deception, and maybe even sabotage. And if you think this was just another 70s muscle car, oh no. Buckle up, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you see the entire era of American muscle. And hey, smash that subscribe button like you're slamming the throttle on a 454 big block at a green light. Welcome to AbTech Lab, where we go deep into the stories most people skip. Now let's rip the cover off the Nova SS. And trust me, it only gets crazier from here. Let's get one thing straight. The 1970 Nova SS was no joke under the hood. The most famous and fearsome version, the one with the L78 396 cubic inch V8. It was officially rated at 375 horsepower, but let's be real. That was a classic GM move to avoid insurance penalties. Unofficially, it was pushing closer to 425 GP. Some say even more with the right tuning. You had solid lifter camshafts, high-flow cylinder heads, and 11.0. One compression, which meant this thing screamed at high RPMs. We're talking 0-60 miles per hour in 6 seconds and a quarter mile in under 14. And this is 1970 we're talking about, not 2025 with launch control and Teslas on cheat codes. Torque? Try 415 lb-ft, delivered like a punch to the chest. This was enough power to twist your drive shaft and maybe your intestines if you weren't careful. And here's the wild part. This engine wasn't even the biggest secret the Nova SS was hiding, because buried even deeper in the GM archives is a ghost car you've probably never seen. Let's take a breather before things really start cooking. We'll be back in a flash with the Phantom Nova that may have never existed, or did it? Enter the world of Copo, GM's secret ordering system designed for dealers and insiders to bypass corporate red tape. Think of it as ordering off the menu at a restaurant, but instead of animal-style fries, you're ordering a 454 cubic inch monster engine. Now officially, the LS6 454 V8 was only supposed to live in Chevelles. It made 450 horsepower on paper, but real-world tests pegged it closer to 500. Insane. But rumours, and a few suspicious barn finds, suggest some Novas were copoed with the LS6. No official documentation exists, no production records, but a handful of LS6 Novas have surfaced with matching numbers. Some say they were dealer-swapped. Others insist it was a shadow build from GM's performance division, meant to test the limits without risking lawsuits. What's undeniable is this. Stories of Novas beating Hemis in street races, quietly, with no badging, no noise, just raw, unfiltered violence. Could the LS6 Nova really exist? That's one of the biggest mysteries in GM muscle history. But the Nova SS had another trick up its sleeve, and it was hiding in plain sight. Here's where things get deviously clever. The Nova didn't look like a muscle car. It looked like something your aunt drove to bingo. It was boxy, plain, even boring, until you noticed the subtle SS badge, the slightly wider tyres, or that tiny bulge in the hood. That's it. No stripes, no spoilers, no flames. It was a factory sleeper, hiding monstrous horsepower in a Sunday church outfit. And that's why it was so dangerous on the street. Nobody saw it coming. Even better, it was light. At just over 3,100 pounds, it weighed hundreds less than a Chevelle or Charger. That power-to-weight ratio made it an absolute street brawler. You could option it with front disc brakes, heavy-duty suspension and bucket seats, but it still looked like it belonged in a high school parking lot, not a drag strip. The Nova was a wolf in sheep's clothing. But not everything was perfect. And that's where things start to crack. This is a perfect spot for an ad break. Grab a snack, because next we're diving into the weak spot that blew up more than a few Novas. Literally. If you had all that power in a car, you'd expect the rest of the drivetrain to handle it, right? Yeah, not always. A shocking number of Nova SS models were delivered with 10-bolt rear axles, even with the high-output L78. These were fine for regular driving, but drop the clutch hard a few times? That 10-bolt would scream, "I'm out of here," and grenade itself like a bad action movie prop. The smart drivers upgraded to 12-bolt posi traction rears, but many didn't know better. And dealerships didn't always inform customers, especially first-time muscle buyers. One guy reportedly twisted his entire axle tube on a street launch. Not broke it, twisted it. That's cartoon-level talk. But things get even sketchier when we look at the Nova SS's driving experience, because sometimes raw power comes with zero assistance. Let's slide in a breather here. We're about to talk about why the Nova SS gave drivers biceps bigger than their thighs. Stick around. Did I mention that many 1970 Nova SS models came with no power steering? That's right. No boost, no help, just you and the road. Parallel parking was an Olympic sport. Driving it at low speed was like arm wrestling a brick wall. You could option it, sure, but lots of drivers didn't. Why? Because weight reduction, baby. Less stuff meant faster launches and better power to weight, but also a shoulder injury waiting to happen. Combine that with the Muncie M22 Rock Crusher transmission, and driving a Nova SS wasn't just an experience, it was a full-body workout. You didn't drive the car, you fought it. And if you won, it respected you. But all this brute power almost never made it to the street, because GM tried to quietly kill the Nova SS before it ever left the garage. Before we reveal GM's internal sabotage of its own muscle car, here's another moment for YouTube to slide an ad your way. This next part, corporate drama worthy of a Netflix series. Here's the most shocking part. GM didn't want the Nova SS to succeed. The Chevelle SS and Camaro were the golden boys. High-profit, big-brand image cars. The Nova, a budget compact. It wasn't supposed to outrun them or outshine them. There are stories of executives pushing to limit performance parts availability for the Nova. Some dealers were even told to de-emphasize the SS version. But the engineers didn't care. They quietly made it possible to spec out a fire-breathing Nova with all the right stuff, if you knew the order codes. It was the car GM didn't want to win, and that's exactly why it did. It became the people's muscle car, affordable, dangerous, and totally rebellious. And now, decades later, its legend only grows. One last ad point before we land this story. Let YouTube do its thing, and then we'll bring the Nova SS saga to a satisfying close. The 1970 Chevy Nova SS wasn't supposed to be a legend, but that's exactly what makes it one. It was light, fast, underrated, and packed with secrets. Whether it was hiding a 396 or possibly a mythical 454, it proved that you don't need stripes and spoilers to dominate the streets. This was a car for people in the know, a muscle missile for those who didn't care about flash. Just speed, just torque, just pure, unfiltered attitude, and today the Nova SS isn't just a collectible. It's a symbol of what muscle cars used to be, dangerous, raw, and unapologetically rebellious. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and let us know in the comments. Would you take a Nova SS over a Chevelle? Or does the underdog appeal win you over? Subscribe to ABD Tech Lab, where we pull the cover off the legends one gear at a time. Until next time, stay fast, stay curious, and keep your foot heavy.